To all the non-believers, I'm making out.
What's good, y'all? This is Jay Varsity, and no, this is not another episode of NBA Talk. This is a segment of mine that I'm putting out for the first time in 2 years. It is called NBA Rant, and I call it NBA Rant because I usually rant about certain things in the NBA, and it just doesn't even feel like a rant video because it feels more like it to me, it's gonna feel more like a pros and cons kind of video. So I don't know if I'm gonna do a segment on pros and cons of NBA teams, but if this becomes the first, then I might just think about that. But the NBA's latest topic, and it was the breaking news yesterday. Obviously, there's nonstop talk around the media about the James Harden trade to Brooklyn. Now, I will be breaking down the other aspects of the trade in my next episode of NBA Talk. So that's most likely tomorrow. But today I just felt like I needed to express my opinion on the James Harden trade to Brooklyn because I feel like there really are multiple pros and cons because there's multiple stories coming in about why this trade happened in the first place. And I'm not even just talking from the Houston Rockets standpoint because we know Harden wanted out for a while now, but we just didn't think that he would get what he wanted and go straight to Brooklyn. So, my personal opinion on this trade, I know there are people that are very excited about this team, and on paper you could say they got so much firepower and all that and all that yada yada when it comes to them being on offense, but my personal opinion on this trade, I'm disappointed on how much they gave up to get James Harden because you gave up some key pieces that could have built up a lot of depth for this team later on in the season that's probably going to hurt them come later on. And if playoff seedings are involved, then I feel like that depth is really going to hurt because you let go of Karis LeVert and you let go of Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince. Now I understand you didn't have to let go of Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's going to be out for the year anyway. So I'm going to start with the pros first. I'm going to start with the pros of the addition of James Harden. The first obvious pro of this trade is you add a former MVP and a 3-time scoring champion. James Harden is a player that averaged 36 points a game one season. He damn near averaged 40 in the other 2 seasons. James Harden is not even probably, he's arguably the greatest ISO scorer in the NBA and that we've ever seen. It's crazy how much James Harden can get his same typical shots off, and you could say I could even say that his game is so predictable, but yet it looks a lot harder to defend than we would all think because we're watching it on TV and these guys actually have to defend it right in front of them. If that's understandable. James Harden creates a lot of contact. He goes to the line a lot. He takes a lot of threes. He attacks the basket. And offensively, he adds just more firepower to the Brooklyn Nets. It just takes, in a way, another pro would have to be, he takes more of that pressure off of Kevin Durant, which is one of the other things that I'm gonna mention about later on in this video about why I'm disappointed in this trade for James Harden. But another pro would have to be is you're taking pressure off of Kevin Durant because of the fact that right now the whole Kyrie Irving situation, you're not sure what his mentality is and when he's gonna come back. So adding James Harden, it just gives you a security blanket knowing that KD is not gonna have to do this, is not gonna have to deal with this alone, and he's got that scoring partner until Kyrie shows up, and now you're gonna have to see how you mesh these three together. Another pro would have to be when these three are on the court at the same time. Defenses are not going to be able to double team. You're going to have to come up with a very unique defensive scheme in order to stop Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant all at the same time. Because either one of them can just go one-on-one and get their own shots off. Now, the big three aspect has been mixed around with, because you had LeBron with D Wade and Bosh, and they took time to get to mesh together. So that didn't work out instantly. And then you had KD when he went to the Warriors, and that instantly clicked. So when we see how this Brooklyn Nets team meshes, we'll see either if it becomes elite firepower or it becomes a complete mess. Let's see, another pro would have to be. Another pro would have to be is you could absolutely maintain two of those three on the court at the same time. You could have mixed combinations of Kyrie and Harden on the court, and KD could go on the bench. You can have Harden go on the bench, and you can have KD and Kyrie on the court. You can have Harden and KD on the court, and Kyrie goes to the bench. You could absolutely mix. You could mix around and play with who you want to sit on the bench at certain times and who you want to stay on the court. You can maintain two of those big three on the court at the same time. That is another pro. And to me, the aspect of this is this team has to score a lot of points. Now, I'm gonna get to the cons of this. And there's gonna be quite a few cons because I only came up with quite a few pros for this team. Let me get straight to it. The first con would have to be your depth took a huge hit in this trade. Again, you lost guys like Karis LeVert, Taurean Prince, and Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen was the only other center you have. DeAndre Jordan is your primary center. Now, I don't know if they're going to use Claxton a lot more, depending on the season. Maybe they might run a little. They might run him a little more, but because of the fact that they don't have another backup center. But if I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing that Jeff Green might become the backup center, Brooklyn's gonna have a problem. Brooklyn's gonna have an absolute problem with Jeff Green being the center. Because when you don't have, I don't see if you have a scoring punch like you do. Like you have guys like Landry Shamet, you got Tyler Johnson, you have Bruce Brown. If Spencer Dinwiddie was healthy, I would be having a whole nother feeling about this Brooklyn Nets team. If Spencer Dinwiddie was healthy, we would be having a whole nother conversation about this Brooklyn Nets team. I would kind of be a little more okay with what we got right here. And I'm not saying we as a fan, I'm talking about what we're seeing on this team. But in the other aspect is, if Spencer Dinwiddie was healthy, he would have been part of the trade package. Another con I would have to say is this team is going to get stomped on the defensive end. Unless I see something completely different and we see something in the buyout market, because I don't see nobody trading with the Brooklyn Nets at this point. I don't see nobody else trading with the Brooklyn Nets at this point. I don't see no other team deciding I'm going to go trade with the Brooklyn Nets. Because I know other organizations are going like, you got Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. What else do you need? Like, they're going to look at you like you don't need anything else. So, my question would have to be is what they're going to do on the defensive end. Because KD is a respectable defender. KD's a respectable defender. I'm going to give him his props on that. He has improved on the defensive end. Before, he didn't really use his length to his advantage, and now he's starting to understand, hey, I have a 7'6" wingspan. I'm very mobile, and now is it he's starting to he's utilized it and not just being a rim protector. Kyrie has to literally be determined on the defensive end of the floor in order to play defense. I saw his years in Boston, and he was determined from time to time because he didn't have that responsibility of having to do everything. But I just don't see that he's just going to turn into he's not going to instantly turn into a lockdown defender. And James Harden, he's a slightly average post defender, but when it comes to the perimeter, he's god awful. Which is why I questioned this in the first place, because they were having defensive troubles. I don't think their problem was not offense. Their problem was not offense at all. This Brooklyn Nets team could put up points anywhere. They could have put up points at any point at any time. They had scores. They just didn't have defense. They couldn't rebound. I can imagine this is going to be a bigger problem than they did before. They could barely rebound when they had Jared Allen. Now you're telling me that you have one decent big man that can rebound? They're going to get out rebounded by the majority of the teams. And then on the defensive side of the ball, when you're dealing with teams like the Bucks, when you're dealing with teams like Philly, which people are starting to overlook them already, when you have a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo that attacks the paint constantly, I don't see who is going to slow down Giannis when you have three guys that are just slightly above average defenders. You got three guys that are slightly above average defenders. You have a past his prime DeAndre Jordan, and then you got a Jeff Green who from time to time could be a defensive liability, because if he doesn't get his feet planted, he can't defend a lick. It just questions me what they're gonna I'm at a loss for words. I really don't know what words I have to say about what they're gonna do on the defensive side of the ball. Another thing I would have to say is another con I would have to say is, what is Kyrie's mentality gonna be being the third option? Because Kyrie right now is the third best player on this team. And I don't get, we can agree to disagree, but I think Kyrie right now is the third best player on this team. Kyrie left a situation from being on a championship team with LeBron James because he wanted to be the man in Boston. Well, he didn't choose to go to Boston. They just traded him to Boston. He went to Boston. He had his own team. He single-handedly caused drama in Boston. He leaves, goes to Brooklyn to team up with his boy KD, and now they get James Harden, and now Kyrie goes from being the second best player on the team to being the third best player on the team, and now Kyrie is officially probably going to be the first option. Because KD, we know he can move off the ball, but he's the best player on the team. We know KD's going to get more shots than anybody. James Harden is a ball-dominant player, and he's going to get a lot of possessions. He needs to get a lot of possessions in order to get in rhythm. He needs to get his dribble ISOs to get his step backs going. I don't see James Harden becoming that third option and just becoming a catch-and-shoot player. So I am really, really interested, but then concerned that Kyrie's mentality is going to start to kick in, and he's going to be like, hey, I'm not going to be that third guy. So I could see them conflicting with each other, because you got three ball-dominant players. So that's another thing that I would have to say is a con about this. There's going to be eternal issues, because I'm also hearing stories about that Kyrie didn't even like the fact that they got Steve Nash as a coach. But then, wasn't he defending Steve Nash in the first place when they first signed him? So, and then another problem will have to be in that aspect of Kyrie Irving. James Harden is coming to a team where his former coach is the assistant coach. Mike D'Antoni is the assistant coach. So Mike D'Antoni is probably going to be influenced to tell Steve Nash, hey, Harden is the second best player on the team. I know exactly how to run a system through James Harden. So that means Kyrie Irving's getting pushed more to the is going to get pushed more to the edge. And the other aspect of the mentality of Kyrie Irving is all this drama about him disappearing and not wanting to play in games and all that. Another con would have to be is they were getting their security blanket, because I'm gonna give a hot take right here. I don't think this big three is gonna last even past the season. I don't think this big three is gonna last very long. I believe the Brooklyn Nets, because there have been stories that the Brooklyn Nets didn't want to sign Kyrie Irving. Their main priority was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was the biggest prize during that free agency, but they had to sign Kyrie in order to do it. My thing with this James Harden trade, they needed a insurance policy, and so they got James Harden because I have a feeling that the Brooklyn Nets in the future might want to part with Kyrie Irving. They just want to have that security blanket to say, "Hey, KD, you still got one of your other friends here on the team. So just in case, Kyrie doesn't work out, you still got an MVP caliber player by your side." Because they don't know this mental state of Kyrie. And who knows what Kyrie would do. He'd probably threaten retirement and all that. But another con I would probably have to mention is, because now I'm done with my take. The other con, and this is just for me personally, my personal opinion on this con right here, and it's because of the media. This is automatically the most hated team in the NBA. And I'm pretty sure that KD could give less of a damn, but this is instantly another case where we're going to look at him and say, you can't win without two damn near superstar caliber players. And I know we're going to hear the whole KD and LeBron comparisons when it comes to building teams and all that, but we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets forcing a big three when they didn't even get to have Kyrie and KD play together for a season. So it's just, I don't know. This just feels like a giant mess when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets right now. This feels like a giant mess. A lot of things are confusing me. I feel like the Brooklyn Nets are probably going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They could put up points. They're gonna put up a lot of points, but in what way though? The system that I'm interested in their offensive system. Who's they're gonna set up plays for the most of the time? Obviously, the one question that everybody keeps asking, who's gonna take the last shot? But it's not even who takes the last shot. It's how many possessions are each player going to get, because each of these players are used to getting 15 to 20 something shots a game. And you can't split that many shots between three players. You can't split 20 shots between three players. Like, each of these guys is not going to get 20 shots each. That's just a fact. And like I said, it's all the mental state of Kyrie Irving also. And please, this is another thing. The media is, that's why I'm saying this team is instantly going to get hated, because you got the media already locking in the Brooklyn Nets to make it to the finals. Like, we're talking about the finals already, and these three have not played a game together. This is what I'm talking about. How are we already putting them in the finals when we haven't seen these three play together? Now, I understand on paper they are capable of coming out of the East, but to win a title? To win the title? Are we joking right now? Are we forgetting about the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that just came off of winning a championship, and they're sitting at 10-3 right now with a 7-0 road record, with the reigning Finals MVP LeBron James, who's looking like he's not slowing down anytime soon? And this Lakers team is actually good on defense? Do we forget the Lakers actually play defense? And let's not forget a guy named Anthony Davis, who is one of the best power forwards in the game. If we're talking in that aspect. Because, like I said, Brooklyn is going to get stomped when it comes to them trying to play defense. They literally have to try to outscore everybody every single game, which they are capable of, but you're going to have nights where your shots are just not going to fall. Now, that is my main question right there, is what are they going to do when they have those nights? What are they going to do when they have nights where their shots are just not falling? Are they going to get blown out? Are they going to try to lock in on defense? Are they going to try to not get out-rebounded? Because that's a problem for me. That's a very big problem for me. Now, I know it sounds like I'm hating on the Brooklyn Nets, but I'm just more concerned on how they're going to do things in Brooklyn, because I really liked the Brooklyn Nets team as it was constructed before the trade. I was really liking it. And then unfortunately Spencer Dinwiddie went down, but still, even after that, I was enjoying seeing the Brooklyn Nets as they were. They looked like a really fun team, and now this just looks like the NBA's next big soap opera. And they're already giving that Clippers hype, talking about that they're gonna win the chip and everything. Like, this is what I'm talking about. How teams get instantly overhyped. And when they don't meet the expectations, these are the same teams that get the same teams that get roasted for not winning. For my other take would have to be is the little respect that KD would probably have earned for getting the Brooklyn Nets to the NBA Finals. You could instantly argue is gone. You could instantly argue that a lot of fans, like myself, I feel personally that if KD would have just even got the Brooklyn Nets to the finals, I would have had a lot more respect. But the fact that I personally think that he really wanted Harden on this team just to have that guy. To have this big three when we were having an era where everybody had 2 stars on their teams, it just brought me back to the Golden State days. But this Brooklyn Nets team is nowhere going to be as good as Golden State was. Just absolutely no way. Sorry, I'm just a little stuffy. Anyway, I think I expressed everything I had to express, because I'm gonna get into more in my next episode of NBA Talk, most likely tomorrow. But I think I expressed everything I had to express in this rant / pros and cons of the Brooklyn Nets. Like I said, the pros are their offense is gonna be insane. You got three insanely top scorers on this team, but your cons are you're gonna get out rebounded, you're gonna get destroyed on defensive end, and who knows how you're gonna guard the perimeter or how you're gonna guard in the post, because you don't have much depth. Your defense, and Kyrie's mentality of being the third option. Those are my biggest concerns. Anyway, that's it. That's all. Like, comment, subscribe if you like basketball content. This is your boy Jay Varsity, and I'm out. Peace.
We got some non-believers out there.
Make believers out of non-believers. Make believers out the overseers. Make them bow down.